So here we are. I've got a Yanmar sv40 and a Case CX42D. That two dealerships that have been wonderful to deal with have allowed me to demo side by side. So for 2 days I've spent just going through and seeing which one was going to have the best capacities and the best all-around performance for my needs. So that's what you're going to find in this video. I try to be as factual as possible, but in some instances also I was opinionated in what I feel will be the best suited for my purposes. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that it gives you some value and maybe you learn a little bit more about each one of these pieces of equipment. Here's some things I noticed right off the bat. So with the grease fittings, it's a lot more recessed than some of them on the Case. So like these are recessed versus these. They're just your standard grease fittings that have been put in. This is just basically put right in the outside there. Don't really know if that matters. That's one of those things over the course of time you just kind of come to know. And then your other areas, they're exactly the same. So really not a big deal. This is something that stood out to me quite a bit though. On the blades, so you've got this blade right here, but it has a gusset right here. But as far as the sides go, I don't see anything there. And this weld, I'll get a look on this weld here. And I don't know of these blades ever failing, ever having issues, but when you're looking at build quality, these are just some of the things that you look at. So this doesn't go all the way around where it connects in here. It probably would be fine. Again, I haven't heard of people having issues with this, but when you go over here, you've got this enormous brace right here. The blade itself is definitely bigger. And the welds look a whole lot more neat, and it's all the way around. It's completely housed by this portion of it. You got a bigger guard here, and that one is smaller, but the reason for the bigger guard is the piston on this is smaller than this one. But then you're talking about guards. Well, there is no outer guard on this piston, but there is here. On the Yanmar, all three of theirs have the guards. So there you go. Also, there's spring steel on these hydraulic hoses here, and you come over here and that's not the case. All right, let's take a look at both of the motors. So this is the Case. Here's your oil dipstick. That's easy to get to. Battery, that's important. That's pretty easy to get to. Looks like you just got to take off 2 bolts here, and you'll be able to get to that. What's not easy, if I'm right about this, is the fuel filter. It doesn't even have a sight glass. That's a little unfortunate there. So everything else is about normal from what I've seen. You know, you put oil in here, or you put oil in up here. Air filter's easy to get to. So there's that. Let's see what else. There's some latch here. How does this work? There we go. All right, so you can clean off your radiator if you want to. It's a nice feature. There's a sight glass to see how your coolant level is. One thing that is neat about this motor, and well, I guess this unit, is this fan here. So we just looked at how you open that up. But this fan is a hydraulic fan, and it has a reverse function automatically built into it. So when you turn the unit off, it automatically reverse spins and blows any of the debris out of the unit. So that's a pretty cool and neat feature. All right, so over here at the Yanmar, one thing that I noticed just right off the bat is this door latches. That's pretty nice. Seems to be pretty standard across all the doors here on the Yanmar. So that is a nice feature. The door that raises up for the engine bay on the Case does do that, but I do like this door better where it swings out this way. Anyway, So here's your bowl. I really like this. Big fan of these, and it's a shame that it doesn't have that on the case. Everything else, I didn't show it over at the case, but the oil filter was easy to get to. It is here as well. Oil dipstick, easy. Oil fill, easy. Got your coolant, air filter, and everything else looks about normal. Okay, so I found this door on the Yanmar. You unlatch it here, it opens up. There's your radiator. Well, you know, I talked about how the doors all automatically open, and this is the only one that you have to do yourself, but still you have a way to hold it in place. Anyway, so that's easy to get to. Battery, I would say, is a little bit more difficult than this one. Of course, I haven't tried either one of these out. Just from looking at it, it looks that way. Who knows? This might be real easy. At least it gives you instructions. It does look hinged, so it actually might not be more difficult. I'd say they're probably about the same then, just looking at that. The big deal is looking at how they perform, right? That's really what matters. So we went over the maintenance stuff. What I will say though, in the Yanmar, now again, I don't have a cab model to show in the case, but I just was driving a cab model in the case, and the first thing I thought when I got in this Yanmar was, wow, it seems really cheap. Now, I don't need to be in a Cadillac while I'm performing work. I don't. But it's just something that stood out to me. You know, when you're paying about the same for two different products, I mean, the Yanmar is cheaper by a couple $1,000s. But, you know, it's just one of those things where it does kind of matter to you. Cheaper plastics, are they going to break up over the course of time? What does that look like? So I know that Case does have a better cab. We'll get to looking at both of these and their performance and let that tell the story. Alright, so I used the 42 to dig out this tree. So I got a little bit of a feel for what this machine is like. What I'm going to do now is take both machines, and this is the setup. Left the root ball on this, so it's pretty heavy. And I'm going to bring both blades right here. Really, where the blade is what matters to me. I know they take different measurements of how they can lift things and all from center of the cab, but really, that's about as far as I'm getting to something. So I'm going to use the blade. Anyway, I'm going to go out as far as I can and see how the machine responds. And then I'm going to take a measurement and see what its actual lift capacity is. Right now, as you can see, this is real light in the back end. This is about all it has. And really, it would have more if I had the blade switched around to the back. So I'm going to take a measurement of this. Then I'm going to go to the side and I'll capture that on video. I'll start getting video footage of all this as I'm doing it. Just wanted to explain it before I started. And then we'll compare the results. Alright, so that was 103 inches. Of course, it's going to be in a little bit because I have the buckets curled all the way in. Both of them will be curled all the way in since I don't have a thumb on the Yanmar right now. Alright, so both track widths on each excavator are the same, 13.5 inches. I just got 11 feet to where the strap is going across the bucket. So now, and this is best case scenario, what I've done is on the back side, I tried to get it perfect to where the back track in this instance was still touching the ground. I mean, I could have it where it's teetering. I'd rather not do that. So I went ahead and just put it perfectly to where both tracks are flat on the ground, but in you know, you move a couple more inches and that no longer is the case. So now I'll try the Yanmar and we'll see what that has. All right, so I got exactly 7 feet. So the other one was 103 inches. This one's not even close. So I mean, we're looking at 84 inches here. Yeah, really. So that's 20 inches less. That's a pretty big difference. And this thing is on the ragged edge. I tried to push it out further. I could tell it wasn't going as far. So there's that. Now we'll try the side and see what we have. Got a little bit of teeter, just barely. It might just be me getting on and off of it. So we'll just call it the same, but it's a hair under 10 feet. We'll just be generous, we'll call it 10 feet. So a foot shorter than the case. All right, time to measure breakout force. I've got a load cell right here under a shirt just to keep it from getting dirty. And I've got a readout up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull on it and we'll see what the breakout force is, real world, not spec sheet. And I'll then swap buckets and see, just for apples to apples comparison, see what the breakout force is on the Yanmar. Got 7450 on the end of the bucket, so that's worst case scenario. Those teeth can pull 7450, and as you saw, there was no way I was doing that without putting that blade down. That machine wanted to pull itself over. So anyway, we'll try the Yanmar now. I'll drop this bucket with the coupler and connect it with the Yanmar. All right, as you saw, I tried to give it as fair of a chance as I possibly could. I moved it around numerous different ways just to try and see if I could get the higher number. The numbers before, I was getting around 5,900, 6,000. When I moved it around again, I was getting right at 6,500, and I was holding the curl down the whole time. Just to try and get the highest numbers I could. And after 6,500, it would start to fade off pretty quick down to about 6,000. So you got about 1,000 to 1,500 pound difference. Now, in all fairness, the case as well, when I wasn't holding the curl on the bucket, it would drop down. It had have a little bleed off. But when I held the curl, it would hold 7,500, between 7,400 and 7,500. So very large difference there. All right, so I wanted to go ahead and take advantage of it being nighttime and at least just show another attribute of both these machines. So what the Yanmar really excels on is just the point of view all the way around the machine. So it's showing a very wide projection of light. And you know, not just where you're digging, which is nice, because you want to be able to see your surroundings. You know, if somebody's approaching you at nighttime on a job site, whatever. Me personally, I don't see myself running into that, but you never know. Anyway, definitely impressed with the lighting on the Yanmar. All right, so now here's a viewpoint from the case, and my camera is having a little bit of difficulty trying to actually show the extent of which the arm is putting out the light versus the actual machine with the light down here. But this light down here, I'm gonna see if I can maybe just aim it more towards the sky and get that away from here. Okay, there we go. So now that's the perspective from just the machine here, ground level, if you will. That's what you're seeing. I see on the camera it's not projecting it as well. I think it's getting a little too saturated with just the light that's being placed right here. I can see, but I've got a lot of shadow right here where it's still in my field of view. Kind of what I was saying with the Yanmar is not a problem whatsoever because it's so wide the way it comes out on the left-hand side. So where that also is beneficial to have that light is when I step off of here, I can't really see too much. Whereas that really wasn't an issue with the Yanmar. But you know, the other aspect of this is the light that is on the arm is actually extremely bright. I'm trying to use only one hand to do this here. So where you're digging, it's phenomenal. But your actual surroundings, it's not the best. So while I'm sitting on the machine with the camera, I do want to show one thing, and that's the reverse fan function that I talked about earlier. So I'll go ahead and turn it off. When I turn it off, you will hear the fan reverse speed. And again, that's just to blow out any debris that's been caught up in the radiator. So I'll do that now. And so that was it. All right, so day 2 of trying to figure out what these machines can actually do. I'm gonna try doing the breakout force test again. I just want to make sure I give both these machines a fair shake, especially since the Yanmar was so much less than what it's advertised as when it already was tested with the quick coupler that's on it. So it shouldn't have that much loss, which is what's surprising to me. And the load cell is calibrated accurately. So anyway, we're just going to try that again and see where we're at with things. Okay, so when I was close and had the boom almost in an A, so more of a straight up pattern, I was getting about 5,500. I couldn't get much more than that, and I realized that wasn't right. And you try to figure out, how are these manufacturers getting such high numbers? Because I couldn't overcome the arm. So as you saw in the video, the arm, as I was curling, the arm cylinder was what was letting go. And so it wouldn't allow me to do more pressure. So when I backed up and took the arm out of the equation, when I pulled as hard as I could and had the machine actually tipping over a little bit, I was getting like 7,100. So that's closer to the manufacturer spec. I think, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I want to say it's around 72 or 7,300. So now I'll get the case over here and I'll see what I can get with that. And talking about the arm, might as well go ahead and see what the arm force is. So I'm just going to pull with the arm this time and see what that number comes out to. All right, so the arm did 5,300. I mean, consistently. It was right at 5,300 and then it pegged, which I believe is actually more than the spec sheet. I'll pull the spec sheet out later on and we'll take a look at that. All right, so I did the same 3 tests and tried it numerous times just to make sure I didn't shock load the load cell. So what I found was when I had the arm all the way out and was just curling, consistently I was getting 8,100 pounds. So my breakout force, even with this quick coupler, which is going to take away some of the efficiency of how well that thing can actually work, I was still hitting 8,000 pounds. And one of my other limiting factors was it basically was trying to pull the whole machine into the tree. I don't know how much the camera caught that, but I felt it a whole lot more on this case, which actually is about 400 pounds heavier than the Yanmar than I did on the Yanmar, of course. So then, in testing out the breakout force with the arm in more of an A angle, I was getting the same thing I got yesterday. It was about 7,200 pounds is what I was getting. And then with the actual arm force, consistently with 3 different attempts, I got 6,000 pounds. So all those numbers absolutely are higher than the Yanmar. And I feel like at this point I've given both of them a fair chance. I've tried them in all different configurations. If anything, I've tried it more with the Yanmar to see if I can get higher numbers. So like I said, later on in the video, I'll go over the actual spec sheets of these. Alright, I'm going to do a load test. So I used the Yanmar to dig out a very large rock, which is seated in the bottom here. And then I went over to my rock pile I have and put a whole lot more rocks in here. So I just weighed it, and it's weighing right at 2,080 pounds. All right, to where my track was stable, 90 inches. All right, so in this case, I got 93 inches. So from the connection point on the back of the bucket to the front of the blade, or sorry, the back side of the blade, I've got 11 feet 1 inch. So now we'll try the Yanmar. All right, so I haven't moved the camera, and hopefully it shows that I put the Yanmar in the exact same spot as I put the case, put the blade down in the exact same spot, and I have not moved this basket. So should be about apples to apples. You can already tell though that the Yanmar does look like it has, from the blade point or perspective, it's still got a little bit more reach. So that certainly is a good thing. All right, so that right there is 141 inches. It's bleeding down a little bit, but if you really wanted to, you can still function and work at this rate. So no issues there. We'll go for the side and we'll go for the rear. So important to note, the arm will not pick this up. So I probably need to redo my nav here. I'm holding the arm down, but it just will not come up. Or the boom rather, sorry. All right, so right there the boom was able to come up. But only while also doing it with the arm and also curl. I'm gonna have to try the case again just to make sure that doesn't have the same problem. "91 inches. That was 99 inches. But the important thing is to be able to see if the boom can even bring it back to it. That's 87 inches. Okay, somehow I deleted the footage of the case showing that the boom, what it could do, whether or not it could pick it up when it had full reach. So I'm going to demonstrate that again. Glad I just realized that before they came and got it this morning. All right, so as you can see, the case doesn't have any sort of issue trying to pick that whole load up when it's on the end of the stick from the boom perspective. All right, so we're gonna do a race. The good news is we have some observers here. Anyway, so my wife's gonna be in the Yanmar. What I've instructed her to do is to just hold both sticks down wide open. We're not gonna be going in rabbit. We're just gonna go in the turtle mode, the normal working mode. Go. All right, so in the final summary here, I want to start by saying both dealerships and sales individuals were absolutely wonderful to speak with, and I have no concerns really of dealer support in the future from either one of them. And so both of those things being equal, then we just have to rely on the specs and my personal opinions from this large decision I have to make to kind of guide my way. So with all that being said, and you know, the rarity of having two great dealerships that sell equipment so close by to each other, we'll go from there. All right, so final results and thoughts. We'll go ahead and go over some numbers. That's really the meat and potatoes of all this, and then everything else is more so opinion. Okay, so breakout force on the Yanmar, they claim 7209 on the spec sheet, and the best I obtained was 7100. That's with the arm all the way out. And so I'd say that, yeah, I agree. So 7209 versus 7100, that's valid. Now real world, when you've got more of an arch to the arm and you're working a little closer in, I got around 5,500. I think at one point I got 6,000, but consecutively I was getting 5,500. We'll talk about the case. So the case, they claim 9667. Now I do want to say something about this. The Yanmar, they say on their spec sheet that everything's done with their quick coupler. So it should be exactly what it says on the spec sheet. The case, however, they don't come automatically with a quick coupler, and this is put on aftermarket. So you're gonna lose some of your breakout force from this because you're not actually attaching to this pin here. Anyway, I expected some loss. I don't know what the percentage of loss was, but here are the numbers. So 9667 is what they claimed, and all the way out with the arm, like you see here, we got 8100. So there definitely was a loss there, but you have 8100 versus 7100, so 1,000 different there. When working in a normal configuration or pattern, a little closer in, you've got 7,200 versus 5,300, or sorry, 5,500 on the Yanmar. So big difference there in breakout force. So hands down, the case won the breakout force test. All right, so the arm. What were the arms capable of doing? What I measured blew away the manufacturer specs. I'm probably doing it wrong, but whatever. So on the Yanmar, they claim 4211 for what the arm can do, and I got 5,300. And for the case, they claim 4,406, and I got 6,000. So the case won in that regard as well. Looking at reach, so I think in the spec sheets here, let me look, I only have the 40 spec sheet with me right now. I wrote on the back of the 40 that the reach for both of those, the ground reach, was the same center line of the cab, or within an inch or so of each other. And so I have both buckets here about the same in the way they're configured. And I got 149 inches on the case and 144 inches on the Yanmar. The way I measured these was from the blade. In my opinion, the way that you're going to be digging is going to be where can I set my blade and still actually function, operate, that sort of thing. Yeah, you could put the blade around back, but then you're at the tracks. And anyway, that's how I measured them. And somebody else might do it differently, but that's just my opinion there. So 149 over 144. So with this quick coupler adding a few more inches, it actually has more reach than the Yanmar. So that surprised me there, because the Yanmar, what attracted me to these was they seem to have more reach. Anyway, what else did I have? The weights as they sit right now, the case currently is weighing 99.12 as it sits, and the Yanmar is 95.15 for whatever that's worth. Going back to the log test here, just to talk about that. So on the front, the Yanmar was able to do the log at 84 inches, and the case was able to do it at 103 inches. I mean, that's crazy how different that was, and I still am kind of baffled by that. So then on the side, the Yanmar was able to do 10 feet out on the side, and the case did 11 feet, so an extra foot there. And that's important to me because that's what I'm going to be doing a lot. Okay, so with the 2,000 pound test, just a recap of those numbers, both of them could take that thing all the way out in front of it and set it down. That wasn't an issue. So setting it down was good, but as we saw, the arms, well, the arm on the Yanmar was definitely an issue for bringing it back up. And I don't know if I actually got a measurement on that, unfortunately, but here's what we do have. So on the Yanmar, I got 91 inches from the side is what it was able to do without trying to tip over, and the case got 93, so they're about even there. Really not a big difference at all. And then on the back, the Yanmar was able to hold itself together all the way out to 99 inches. The case could only do it at 91. However, the Yanmar could not bring the load back to itself unless I was at 87 inches out. So really, you have to look at it and go, all right, so it's 87 versus 91. So a couple extra inches there go to the case, unless you're just grabbing heavy loads and setting them out far. But you do have that arm bleed down. It just shows the strength in the hydraulic cylinders or the relief pressures as they've been set from the manufacturer. All right, so specs aside, where do I stand? Total transparency, I expected the Yanmar to win. I see them everywhere. People seem to really like them, and that's where I was. And I was hopeful that it would win, because then if it did, I'm spending less money. It is a little less expensive. Now, it was the only one that was less expensive than the case. The case had a great rate, some great incentives going for it right now, because this is a new model and it just came out at the end of last year. So they're trying to get them out on the market. They're offering some great incentives, but still, the fact remains that I want to spend less money. So here we are with the Yanmar, and both dealers, I will say, were convinced that their machines would win. And that just wasn't the case. I feel like there was a clear winner, and that was the case in the spec realm of what it can actually do, what it can handle. And then when it comes to other things that I didn't even try, you've got a bigger blade. I feel like you can do more with that. So there is that aspect of it. I've got a little bit more reach, but it's only because of this coupler. It's not because of anything wrong on the spec sheets there. It's just an aftermarket part that's been added. And then there are other little things. So opinion-wise, where am I? Well, the seats, when I went back and forth numerous times, one thing I noticed, and also my wife pointed this out when she tried them out on her own, and also when we raced, was the Yanmar seat was more uncomfortable than the case seat. And this isn't even the cab seat for the case. The cab seat is actually nicer. So there's that. As far as maintenance goes, I think some things will be a little bit worse on the case. I don't like that there isn't a water separator on the case that I found, and I'll have to talk to the rep about that. But that's something that I do enjoy on a diesel motor. I want to be able to see what's going on with my fuel, so I don't like that. And then the Yanmar did do some things where each one of their doors does have a latch on the hinges, which that's a nice feature. So both of them have their own little features and things. At the end of the day, the specs are important to me because that's what I'm going to be doing. These cylinder covers and guards, they're nice, they really are. And there's only the one on the case. But it doesn't help me with lifting capacity and digging capacity. And then you do have to look at something on the Yanmar that is a nice feature, and that is that it comes with the hydraulic quick coupler. I don't want to beat that horse to death, but it definitely is a nice feature. Did I mind changing buckets with the case? Absolutely not. I found it to be just as easy as the quick coupler, except I had to get out of the cab. So really, it took me realistically an extra 30 seconds, let's say, maybe a minute, and I'm not going to beat that to death. I really didn't find it difficult. Now, if I was beating out pins, yeah, totally different story, and you know, time is money. So that's not something I want to be doing. Talking about things that the case was better at, the case felt faster, and that's why I wanted to do a race. When I was in just the let's call it turtle mode on the Yanmar and also the case always just felt a little faster moving around. And I don't know if it was a smoothness issue or what it was, but then we raced them, and yeah, it is a little bit faster. And talking about smoothness, I preferred the feel of the hydraulics in the case. It just, maybe it's my personal preference, but I really did. So with all that being said, I plan to go with the case. And I've been very impressed with it. I'm excited about moving forward with this. Does not mean that the Yanmar is not a good machine. Just in my tests and my preferences, I would say that the new 42 is really a force to be reckoned with. And all the dealers I talked to, when I mentioned this, they were, yeah, we know these Hyundais, we know how they are, and our machine will blow it out of the water. And because this is made by the new Italian company, let me see here if we can get it on camera. It's Eurocomac, or however you say that, made in Italy by the S word there. You know, because of that, you know, maybe they're just putting out a better quality than what people were used to seeing from them. So we'll see, and I'm willing to give it a shot. They got a great warranty coming with that, and we'll give it a go. But again, both great machines, just one performed better.